Hey everybody, it has been a long time since I had my boss, Oakland Mayor Elihu Harris, on. Well, former mayor technically, but still arguably the best mayor in Oakland's history. How you like that, Elihu? Because it's true.
I'll take it, but I won't. I won't brag about
And it's been a year since last time he was on. He was on with the legendary Pat Gallagher, Alan Dolich, and we're talking about the loss of Oakland sports teams in a really classic time online. Thank you for doing that with me, Ellie. It was a lot of fun.
it.
This time we have another barn burner of set of problems, and I'm going to start, right off the bat with first of all, what do you think about this whole matter of? And I'll just shift gears a little here, and I was going to say the best topic for last, but then first we were going to talk about this earlier, so I'll get it out of the way. The Oakland A's headed to Sacramento, and that because we were going to talk about that before, we never quite got on it. So it's just still a chance to talk about it. So here we go. What do you think?
Well, obviously, it's a sad day for Oakland after 60 some odd years of having a major league franchise that's won World Series and been, arguably one of the best baseball franchise in the modern era. To have that leave town certainly is a setback. Whether or not it's in the best interest of the ownership remains to be seen. Moving to Sacramento, obviously, is a short-term solution. Sacramento fans are excited. They'll have a ballpark, 14,000 people, that will have Major League Baseball for the first time in Sacramento's history. The A's last week drew as low as 2,400 people to a game. So I think basically the love affair with at least the ownership, not the team, is over. And I think that the A's, as they move forward, have a number of hurdles to climb and to clear. But certainly leaving Oakland seems to be resolved at this point.
There's something that really bothered me about the way Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao's staff handled that. As I was told by a source who was in the meeting, first of all, the mayor wasn't there. Second of all, Lee Hansen, the mayor's chief of staff, was there, in addition to Miguel Duarte, who represents Dave Cobble himself. And Lee Hansen, the chief of staff to the mayor, was the person really talking on behalf of the city in the Oakland Athletics offices at Jack London Square. And she made comments to the A's that were nasty. And I'm not going to say, in my view, they were just plain out nasty. Okay. Comments that, had I made them to a business person representing you undoubtedly would have fired me. Mm. She said specifically that in response to Dave Cobble's mention that the news online and in what exists in the papers was the focus of a proposal that they heard about. They didn't hear about it through the city directly, and that was the $97 million ask, if you will, or charge. And Lee Hansen's comment was, well, first, Dave Cobble, the president of the Athletics, said, this is this is above market for us. And Ms. Hansen's clapback, if you will, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have a text in front of me, but she said that the A's had been getting away with it paying below market for years, and this isn't an actual rent. It is the cost of doing business in Oakland. She put it just like that. And Dave's response, according to ESPN, was that they would, consider it. And her response back to them was even nastier. And the words escape me at this point, but it so upset me, I made 2 video blogs about it and was set to make a third, because we're doing economic development and we're not supposed to be chasing businesses out. And yet Lee Hansen talked as if to say, and she did say, take it or leave it. Then word came back that she went back to Sheng Thao. Sheng said, I'll lowered to 60 million, but it was too late because of the way she addressed Dave Cobble in his own office,
Right.
in front of his own people. What's going on? And look, if you think that I'm off base, am I missing something?
I think you're off. I think it's a divorce. Divorces are often ugly. The time for reconciliation has been over for a while, Zinni. This is gone. It's just a matter of time, whether they left in 3 years or 2 years. And I think the fans are already done with it. Whether the city is, what I would say, courteous or not, I can agree with you about being courteous and diplomatic. But in the final analysis, it wasn't going to change anything.
What is it, though? I mean, here's why I read Elihu. We look at cities around the country, like, for example, Elgin, Illinois,
Right.
or any suburb in Illinois with respect to Chicago Bears and their president, Kevin Warren,
Okay.
who, by the way, is a consummate executive.
Mm.
You read all the letters posted online addressed to Kevin Warren. They all are more than respectful. They are deferential.
Uh-huh.
And it's an exchange and its approach. I haven't seen in Oakland in a long time.
I don't think it's been that dramatic in the A's either. See, where you and I disagree, I don't think either side should get all the blame, nor do I think either side should get a whole lot of credit. I mean, this is a bad relationship. It's been bad for a minute. It didn't just start with Sheng Thao. If it did, I'd be happy to say, wow, it only got bad under Sheng Thao. It's just not true. It's been bad for a while. It hasn't gotten better. I don't know what the secret juice is or formula to make it good. And now the fans are bitter, which is the final straw. The fans are basically voting with their feet. That's the issue I think that you need to focus on, not the courtesy or lack of respect demonstrated by the city, which may well be a problem, but it's not the ultimate issue.
But here's my question, though. I'm 3,000 miles away, even though I have my place in Adams Point. Everyone around the country thinks that Oakland has no idea what it's doing. This isn't coming from me.
That may be true too.
You know,
but the A's, I think, do know what they're doing, which is they're going to Vegas.
Right.
And they're holding the cards. I mean, you can keep guessing what could the city have done better, but I never heard any particulars from the A's other than too much time, not clear, still got issues with the BCDC. I mean, I've heard all kind of things other than if this is done, we're in. I've never heard anything specific.
Well, I have, and I have because I have 8 different video interviews. I apologize.
I don't want an interview. I want a 5-point in print, clear. Here are the conditions that we need if we are to stay. I'm not saying you don't know what they are. I know what they are.
I do.
I think most people in the city know what they are.
I do. He laid them out on my program more than once. He said he wants a sources and uses document. He had never gotten it. He waited years for it. He wanted to understand how much tax increment financing at a generation was going to be. He never got it. That was all the way back in 2021. And that was even before the commissioner of baseball pulled the plug on the 27th of March of 2021. So they clearly laid out what they needed. And then on top of that, and this is Chang, okay? They started playing the game of saying, oh, by the way, the A's keep, ratcheting up the money. The A's never did that, okay? That was us. And what we did was we came up with the offsite infrastructure costs.
Zenny, here's your problem. It wasn't us. It was whoever was negotiating. I don't take responsibility for what other people do. The city, you could say the city is to blame. Okay, what does that change? The bottom line, the A's are leaving. And you can play the blame game as to who's at fault. That doesn't change anything either at this point. So the A's are basically gone. And I don't really want to play history because it doesn't change anything.
No, I understand that, but Ellie, this is where I got to push back on you, okay? With all due respect, all right? We don't debrief when these things happen. It's always, it happened, we did our best, and we didn't. I heard Nate say, well, we tried this. And I told Nate, I said, Nate, privately, I told him all other things out of friendship that I'll never say. But my point is simply this, all right? We didn't debrief and ask ourselves what went wrong, what we did wrong. And it is a we. Right? And that's the problem. It's always somebody else that's in the group and these things are failing. It happens all the time, Ellie.
I'm not taking any responsibility for this, Zenny. You can say we if you want to. I'm not part of we. I was
I'm
never
saying you're part of it. When I say we, I'm saying
so we. I was never consulted. I was never part of it with the A's or the city. So whatever the issues are, I'm the same as everybody else. The public. I only know what I read in the newspaper or see on Zenny Abraham.
right. And I get you. And let me clarify what I mean when I say we. When I say the royal we, I'm thinking about, remember Oakland sharing the vision, and you had 500 people that came in.
There was no charrette about the A's.
Right.
It's been an insider game from the beginning.
That's exact. Thank you.
And most of the things are. When the Warriors were getting ready to leave, it was an insider game. When the A's were looking before about what their options were, it was an insider game. We found new ownership when when the prior ownership wanted to make a move. So, and the same thing was true when Al Davis came back from LA. It was all an insider game. And maybe that's the only way it can be. And if it's not done correctly or respectfully or whatever it is by those on the inside, you get what you get. But sports, quite frankly, is an above the rim kind of an interaction. It's not something that's negotiated in the newspapers or on your platform or anybody else. We can talk about it, but it's happening behind closed doors. And it's happening between those who have decisions to make or are in a position to make those decisions. I'm not, maybe you are. So I'm looking at it and hearing everybody's perspective about the A's are bad, the city is terrible, the county did worse. I mean, I see everybody pointing fingers. I don't think anybody taking responsibility.
If they had come to you and should have come to you as the former mayor who's what's the term, been there, done that with success, the Raiders, for example, what would you have told them to do?
I would say several things. One, tell me what you want. Tell me what the real issue is. If it is to move to Howard Terminal, let's go together and figure that out. I'm committed. We're all in. Whatever the city can put into the game, we're going to do. Give us a timetable. Let's work together and let's see what we can do. If it's we need a financial deal, well, if it's going to be a public, privately built stadium, what do you need to do it? Okay, some of those things were done, at least to my understanding, with the tax increment financing from the state, which was kind of, at the time, precedent setting. So, I mean, I can only dissect the deal by understanding what I see, which is they needed a new stadium. My understanding, they wanted a privately owned stadium. They were going to pay back some of the cost of that stadium with improvements and tax increment financing, et cetera. So again, without going into the details, which is above my head as we have this conversation, I think that made sense. They wanted to move. Downtown ballparks and waterfront ballparks seem to have a lot more success. And so I think that was a reasonable approach. But if they were also looking at other places at the same time, there was really a competition. It wasn't a desire to make a deal in Oakland. As it was, let's see what you got. Let's see what Vegas got. Let's see what Nashville got, and Austin, for that matter, and we'll make a decision. Well, that's a different ball game than we want to be in Oakland, and we just need to have a few things in order to make that work for us. I never heard that.
Yeah. Hey, so if now that the A's are going to Sacramento, there seems to be an effort to sort of minor league baseball or minor league sports our way into the public eye by two elected officials. One of them, well, the Oakland Ballers, who have been helped assisted by Carol Fife, Sheng Thao, actually a number of elected officials. And then, of course, we talk about the Oakland Roots, which just secured their agreement down at the Coliseum. It seems like we're giving up on going after anchor tenant professional sports organizations, high-end hotels, and we're just sort of spitballing.
Well, first of all, I don't see it that way. I'll tell you why. Number one, as long as there's limited number of franchises in the Major League Soccer, baseball, football, basketball, whatever it is, it's a weight game. one thing you do is often try to keep interest in that sport. A long time ago was the Oakland, not Oakland,
Oakland Oaks.
Oakland Oaks.
Yeah.
Until we got the Oakland A's, like with the San Francisco Seal, until they got the Giants. So I don't have any problem with minor league.
Great point. Right.
Show that there's still an interest in a fan base that loves the game. And I think, quite frankly, I think while there was a loss of a fan base in Oakland for Major League Baseball, for example, I think it's more complicated than the fans just didn't show up. You couldn't tell the players without a scorecard. Every year they were trading away players trying to save money. And so every time you started identifying with the players and felt they were on your team, it was a different set of players and a different team. I felt that way. I could not name one player on the Oakland Athletics this season, and they're not doing half bad, but they're all new, and I couldn't tell you who they are. So it's hard to follow it on a day-to-day basis when you try to see batting averages or who's playing what position. I couldn't name one player on the Oakland A's.
I mean, I think, it is, in fairness to them, it's difficult, but then you've got.
I understand that.
Yeah. Well, we got Mark Mason, the pitcher. Esther is really, as we have Brett Rooker, Lawrence Butler, Paul Blackburn. Do I know much about these guys? No, but I root the A's on. I want to see
their names is far above the average fan, much less individual. But back in the day, I could tell you every player at every position, and they were there for a while. They were not, every once in a while somebody get traded or you say, hey, we need this instead of that. We'll give up this to get that. That I understand has been part of the game for the last 100 years. But when you have people wholesale stars shipping out every year, and you start saying, oh, hey, we got Chapman. Oh, now he's back east. Oh, now he's back with the Giants. Okay.
That's true.
You go on and on with a number of these players. And if you follow them, you follow them around the country. You're not following them with the A's. So again, that's a business decision. I can't control that. But I do think it has a lot to do with the fans identify, not with the name of a team, athletics, but with the players who play for the Athletics. I'm going to see such and such pitch today. I'm going to the Coliseum to see who's going to pitch today.
Yeah.
Who's on first? What's on second? That Abbott and Costello joke is what the A's are all about.
How much of this, is just maybe a bad draw of owners that don't like Oakland? Let me give you an example I'm talking about separate from the current situation. I remember when I worked for you, and this was 1996, and this was Street and Smith Sports Business Journal.
Right.
Now it's called just the Sports Business Journal. And there was a little tiny article about Ken Schott and Ken Hoffman, snooping around Sacramento looking to move the Athletics up there.
Mm.
And I immediately called Steve Schott.
Mm.
And I asked him what was going on. He said, well, we're not moving, but did we explore? We did. And I believe right after that, we had the meeting with yourself, Andy Dolich, and me.
Right.
But was that where we got to the point where, hey, we had ownership that really wasn't interested in being in Oakland, or was it that we weren't giving them what they wanted after the return of the Raiders?
Well, look, in Major League Sports, we see a continued suburbanization of teams. Sometimes they go out, then they come back. We're no longer in the geographic center of our region, so we're going to move back to the center. And for example, as you know, Oakland is sort of the geographic center of the Bay Area. You're within 50 miles of almost everybody in the Bay Area, up from Fairfield to back. Sacramento, not so. But you got a lot of land. You got a fairly upper class citizenry, and if you think you can go up there where you don't have the number of fans, you don't have the same media market, it may be enticing for people who think the grass is greener. So that's not unusual in sports these days. The Giants and the Jets don't play in New York; they play in New Jersey. So and the fans follow them. And as you remember, they were talking about moving the A's to Fremont.
Yep.
With the fans that that might have been a geographic center between San Jose and Oakland. and whether the name of the team changed or not, it would have been 30 miles from Oakland and 20 miles from San Jose. So there's a lot of things that go into where people locate teams. But I can't help but think about what happened with the previous owners who actually sold it to Hoffman and Schott because they wanted to keep the team in Oakland. They made that sacrifice and made that clear. They could have sold it for more money to a number of different people.
The Haas family. Yep.
Without the guarantee. They were committed to the local fan base, local ownership. And for them, it wasn't just an economic enterprise, it was a community enterprise. And as you remember, they were drawing over 2 million people in many of the seasons in which they owned the team. So obviously they were building a fan base. They had great players. People identified with the players, loved the team. And when you got to playoffs and World Series, they didn't have any problem selling tickets. So
and, go ahead. I interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that it's a two-way street. It's a relationship, not just the government and the ownership, but the fans. So it may be a three-way street, maybe a four-way conjunction. All the media, everybody coming together and say, "Hey, this is our team. We want to support our team, and we're gonna." And the team is we want to support our community. We want young people to play baseball and love sports and come to the game with their parents. That's the kind of thing I thought we had in Oakland, even under Finley. That he didn't put much money into the team, but he hired local people. There was the sportscasters were fairly local. As you remember the story of the legendary rapper
MC Hammer.
C. Hammer working for Charlie Finley, being the vice president. He was like 14 years old.
Yeah.
And Charlie O. the Mule. So my point about all that was there was a real link between the ownership and the community. And even when times are rough, I don't remember Charlie Finley talking about moving back to Kansas City. So you got to show some loyalty for everybody. Hey, if we care about the A's, let's build our attendance. I didn't hear one of those kind of things. Hey, you get us to this level of financing, we're going to try to keep our best players. And we're not. This is not just to make money. This is a friendship. It's a relationship that we have to invest in. If we invest in the relationship and give you a decent product on the field, we respond and show up to support them. Okay, well, that's a challenge. I can live with that. But I never heard that challenge either. So I never heard much. The A's did some things in the community. I'm not saying they didn't, but I'm not sure there was ever what I believe to be the kind of relationship building that would establish. I think the politicians would be getting kicked in the butt if the A's had done the kind of community building with the Little League programs and other kind of things, not just in Oakland, but in Alameda and Contra Costa County. So everybody said, hey, that's our team. I don't care if I live in Walnut Creek. That's my team. My kids grew up watching the A's, and I want my grandchildren to be there watching the A's. I want to buy a season ticket. I would go to 20 games a year, whatever it is. And not only that, we have no local newspaper anymore. So following the A's as a social media thing. You don't go to watch the game on radio or TV and listen on radio. There's not a whole lot. Like I can't tell you if I ever read a story about the A's. Most of them I get them from your column. I get them from 30 seconds on TV. The only reason I know the players is because I've been watching the scorecard.
Yeah.
Most of you could tell you Dave. You said, Dave Cobbett, who? No, I have no idea who that is. People don't know Lou Wolf. These are names that are like, they don't even know Hoffman and Schott for that matter. But so part of it is integrating yourself into the community. And a lot of people you're talking about, Chicago, other places, for example, they're part of the fabric of those cities. They're involved in a lot of things. They got relationships with a lot of the elected officials. They're doing things in the community. They're in the newspaper, giving away some tickets or for example, my cousin has a foundation in Detroit. Detroit has a terrible team. You know what though? They have a night where they sell cheap tickets for kids to be able to come to go to a Detroit Pistons game. I can't remember the last time I saw any real effort to advertise that for any of the local sports teams here.
No.
I mean, they're economic machines, and for young kids in the San Francisco Bay Area, they're not going to go to a Warrior game. I can barely afford to go to a Warrior game, and I got money.
And that's hey, that's another situation there. And I want to say also that, not say but ask that, do you think the situation would have been different if two things happened? If the A's had retained Tosh Tahombe as their government affairs rep, they fired him now 2 years ago, and if they had hired Dave Stewart instead of Ray Bobbitt to form and his ASCG regarding the Coliseum land matter.
Well, I think two different things. I think that that Coliseum site with its current ownership structure is just not viable. And it's going to have to get resolved. It's going to have to be in one entity's hands. Having the Fishers or the Gap people, or the A's, whoever you want to call that entity, holding half of it, and the other having a development deal and works with the city for the other half that they currently don't own. You're like in limbo between a rock and a hard place. So I think all those issues need to be resolved. I understand the A's have offered to sell their half. I don't know if Bobbitt or anybody else who wants to buy them, but I would tell you this.
Ray said he had Loop Capital lined up to give him the money to do it. I don't know where that is. I just wanted to put it in there.
I appreciate that. I would say this. I believe that whoever buys it, it's a long-term hold. It's not going to be something you're going to see the A's gone, i.e. at the end of September of 2024, and all of a sudden the construction is going to start, and you're going to start seeing a whole new entity. No.
Something else that we uncovered here at ZennyReport.com is that the matter of the athletics land sale to ASCG has a bump in the road because the county never declared that land surplus. Now, what happened, and I want to get your feedback on this, because the way Scott Ostler told it in the Chronicle is completely wrong from what it actually happened. But the Coliseum has Henry Gardner as executive director, had Scott McKibben before that, and of course before Scott McKibben, I believe it was the gentleman from SMG. But at any rate, but they also have Larry Gallegos, or had Larry Gallegos as a manager, but it turned out that Larry was really only the manager for the city side of things, and the county was kind of left out. Well, not kind of. The county was left out there, and there was no way to. So in other words, there was no legislative edict that said you all must, through the JPA, solve your land problems. There was no. Even Larry wrote there was no tenancy in common.
Right.
I'm thinking, how come Larry would identify that there's no tenancy in common, but not fix the problem? So,
but it had been that way from the beginning. There was only a problem: we had no tenants.
Yeah. And so basically, what I'm saying is that the city and the county had no tenancy in common between themselves, though. So that you can work out the deal.
Problem. Hey, you know what? You know what they say? Victory has 1,000 fathers. Defeat is an orphan.
True.
What don't you get? Nobody wanted to touch it.
But don't you think somebody should, even now, since they both own it, or unless they're going to tear it down, what do you think they're going to really do in the Coliseum? Because we have, Elihu, do you realize, sorry to jump around like this, I don't mean to, but we have had all year long one JPA meeting today.
Right.
One.
Right.
And they say that they're still getting business done. I know for a fact they're not.
Well, there are events still at the arena. I don't know how many. I haven't seen the financial, but I know they're having events there because they're advertised.
Yeah, they have the events. I mean, for example, there's a number of matters unresolved regarding maintenance reports.
Yeah, I understand.
Events.
You're from a business standpoint, behind the scenes, day to day. Ain't nobody paying attention to that. It's not in the headlines. It's not even. Look, you look at what this financial crisis the city is in. $170-something million this year.
Yeah.
they ain't got time to think. They can walk and chew gum. So why would you think they'd be able to focus on the A's and also focus on the city?
And that gets me to the Sheng Thao recall effort. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, several things. The problem is bigger than Sheng Thao, but she's not prepared to deal with crisis. And I don't know if people run for office without often thinking about the strategy or the challenge, or maybe in simpler words, what are you going to do when you get elected? And then you get elected, you find out you're facing a handful, if not a faceful of problems and protests about any number of things: homelessness, crime, dirty streets and blight, you name it. And you're sitting there without a plan. And all you're trying to do is avoid people hitting you in the face because everybody's throwing at you. I understand that attitude, but at some point, there's got to be a reconciliation in leadership, and maybe that's what we're facing in November, certainly in the DA's race, and very likely in the mayor's race. And maybe once those issues are resolved, I'm not going to say that's for sure because there are many divisions in the community, political and otherwise. People will come together and find common ground. Maybe it's an Oakland sharing the vision kind of charrette, but certainly it's got to be an agreement. What are our priorities? How are we going to get retail to return? What are you going to do to support retail? When you lose the only in and out that ever failed in the history of their company, that's not what you call a track record, although I've heard other people want to come in and go to that site. But you got a large tract of land in East Oakland on Hagenberger, no longer filled with consumers, but filled with homeless people who's not their fault they're there, but that's where they are. They're all on the Hagenberger corridor. So if you go to the Coliseum, you can kind of mask it a little bit by getting off the freeway and going straight onto the Coliseum and not going up and down Hagenberger. But often when people tell you, don't get your gas in Oakland, don't stop in Oakland, you're liable to get carjacked. Those aren't the kind of reputations that say, hey, if you're a tourist, come visit Oakland. No, if you fly to the Oakland airport, get the hell out as soon as you can. Drive straight to the freeway, go north or south, but do not stop. And so perception of Oakland has never been good, but it's never been this bad.
No, it is just absolutely awful, which also gets to my whole idea or the whole question regarding this, something I do not support, this name change for the airport. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's really interesting. I'm not sure how big a deal it is, first of all, whether you agree with it or not. Second of all, the offer of San Francisco to partner is a day late and $1 short. I mean, they could have done this years ago, sharing airlines, sharing, landings, but it's been a competition. Fly SFO,
Yep.
So if you want to go to the East Coast nonstop, you got to fly to go to San Francisco on drive or on BART. Why should I have to do that? We used to have at least 2 or 3 nonstop flights to JetBlue or whoever. I mean, at least I had an option. If I went to San Francisco, in that particular case, it was more convenient. Now I'm forced to go to San Francisco if I want to go nonstop to Washington, D.C. or New York.
Same here.
I don't think that's in the consumer's interest. I think when the consumers had a choice, those planes used to be full going back east out of Oakland.
Yep.
So obviously wasn't a mark. It was hey, we're gonna make you go to San Francisco. I didn't say San Francisco say, hey, we don't want all the flights. Hey, we got international flights, we got this, we got that. We want to build business, but hey, we also want to spread the wealth because we don't want people to have it inconvenient to fly. So so competition, unfortunately, rather than cooperation, is what's one of the various failings. We don't get together as a region and say, where's housing going to be built? Where business is going to be? Where transportation corridor is going to be? So we got a for-profit company want to build a population of 400,000 people in Solano County, in the middle of nowhere where traffic is already abysmal. Why? Because they can. not because the voters asked for it, not because they talked about how you're going to widen Interstate 80 to accommodate the cars going north or south, but because, hey, there's a lot of land, there's a demand for housing. Hey, we can make a bunch of money. Billionaires making more money, not doing the public needs, not investing in the cities, but investing in cheap land in the suburbs. I don't find that to be particularly egalitarian. Is it profitable? Remains to be seen. But I don't certainly give them credit for doing something to help the community and the environment.
Yeah, and it's something else too. You were mentioning, you're talking about that issue, but what occurs to me also is that the city at the airport, in the 40 years or 50 years that I've been aware of Oakland Airport, O'Hare has changed 4 times. O'Hare Airport, basic, without a hotel in the middle. Then they put a hotel in the middle. Then United Airlines hired Helmut Jahn to build the terminal, and now there's this brand new effort to really entirely overhaul Oakland Airport for the 21st century. And through that entire time, I have not seen any significant change in Oakland Airport, save for that transit system going that connects BART to the airport.
As you remember, in 1998, we had a plan to expand the airport, add a runway, and do a number of double deck the airport so we could accommodate twice the number of people. I think the goal at that point was to get to 25 million passengers. It was abandoned. People in Alameda didn't want any more flights coming over, and they protested for whatever reason. Alameda, the Port of Oakland, abandoned the effort. So, O'Hare's out in the middle of nowhere. There's only 2 airports into a huge metropolitan area, and that's O'Hare and whatever that airport is downtown Chicago. So it's a different situation. There's no competition. You're not flying to Gary, Indiana. You're not flying to somewhere in Michigan or Iowa or somewhere else. You fly to O'Hare. And those few people fly Southwest and Midway is all you got. There's 2 options, So and there are a lot of people coming in and out of Chicago, either the transfer port on airlines like United, or who are making that their final destination. So if you had Oakland as a major transfer station, you have many more passengers coming in and out of here. But Southwest is the predominant airline. You no longer, again, have a major international or national nonstop presence. So, here's my leagues when it comes to airport transit.
Here's my issue, boss. When I think of expansion, I don't think just of, more traffic coming in, but I also think of such things as I would love to see a 400-room hotel in the middle.
I think it all goes together, though, I'll say. I mean, you got to have people coming in to stay. People just coming home to Oakland or going to LA and coming to LA for Oakland for a day or 2. And maybe they're going to San Francisco or maybe going to the suburbs. But when you come to transfer between airports, or you're coming in for a 1-day trip, then you're going to transfer from here to overseas, for example. Yeah. Now you're staying in a hotel at the airport. You're going to maybe go into town and you got mass transit to take you there. You can go downtown, or go to a restaurant, Jacqueline Square, whatever it might be. Then it starts making sense,
Or even here's what I'm getting at. Even if we had a 400-room hotel and a 200,000 square foot convention, ballroom there, at the airport,
right,
it would allow a marketing mechanism to be created that would then connect the airport to all the businesses in, Contra Costa County, who know their people are going to be flying, and they can say, hey, fly into Oakland, stay there, come out to see us at our office, we'll shuttle you back. And suddenly you've got this new pipeline of passengers, right? And what I'm saying is we don't have a place for people to want to be at Oakland Airport. It is a throughput. We don't design it to say, okay, stop here, sleep here. That's what I'm saying.
Well, look, there's a whole lot about marketing Oakland. When you leave the Oakland Airport, you don't really see a lot of saying "Welcome to Oakland." Usually tells you how to get to the next city. You turn to the airport, you get out.
Exactly.
So there are a lot of problems with market Oakland. Again, it's not Taj Shambe or anybody else's fault. It was a lack of coordination, a lack of leadership. The Chamber of Commerce is not particularly strong. We used to have, a lot of fairly large companies. It's
Yeah.
not anybody's fault that Safeway left and other companies didn't come in. But the reality is you no longer have these giant employers. The largest employers in Oakland are public employers or a nonprofit like Kaiser. So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that come to pass, and we see downtowns all over the country, including San Francisco, in that similar kind of struggle. I mean, there's so much vacant office space in San Francisco, 37 to 40% vacancy rate, and I'm not sure that they come up with a creative plan yet as to how to fill it. So this whole economy is turned over. The pandemic revealed a lot of underbelly that had not been exposed, but now facts are out. People no longer, if they don't have to commute 40 miles a day to go to work, and they can work from home 3 days a week, they're happy.
I want to share my visit with NFL Draft, or to the NFL Draft for our 20th year coverage with you, because I had the pleasure of having lunch with our mutual friend Kofi Bonner. And Kofi told me that he's CEO of Bedrock. He's been that now since 2021. And Bedrock is the company that it owns and manages the real estate for Cleveland Cavaliers
Right.
owner and Rocket Mortgage co-founder and owner Dan Gilbert.
That's Kofi.
Yeah, I'm sorry?
That's Kofi's firm.
Yeah. And so Kofi's CEO of Bedrock. But Bedrock is responsible for both Detroit
I know.
Cleveland. Here's what is interesting as we were having lunch. He said that Dan Gilbert's philosophy is, and Dan Gilbert's a multi-billionaire, is to put different projects, building projects, either acquisitions, refurbishments, or brand new buildings in different areas concentrated in the city, either Cleveland or Detroit, and have them all take off at the same time. And Elihu, it's actually working. I was very impressed with what I saw. And my point is, shouldn't we be about the task of marshaling up our known billionaires, or worldwide, and having a charrette like Jerry Brown did with the 10K program, and really bringing them in to invest in Oakland, reactivate tax increment financing, so we can funnel that money, for truly affordable housing, not like middle class affordable housing we call affordable, but it's really like high. But what do you think about that approach?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you overused and rock and chew gum, but Jerry Brown had one major project, right?
Yeah.
And Libby Schaff had one major project.
Yep. You had a bunch of them. You built Oakland's downtown.
Yeah, I'm trying to answer your question.
Yes, sir.
You can't just do, I'm going to do 10,000 units of housing, that's going to change downtown Oakland. Or I'm going, it's the idea, we're going to build 10,000 units of housing and make Oakland a 24-hour downtown, but everything else closed. So now, it's no longer a 24-hour downtown. There's no retail downtown. There's no much entertainment downtown. You only got one major restaurant. Well, there's a few restaurants. One major restaurant in Jacqueline Square. And so all I'm telling you is you got to act comprehensively. And if people say, if I could just get one thing done, it's going to make it all right. It hasn't worked. We got to come in and say, hey, we got to come in, figure out people need retail, but there's a new kind of retail. Where will it be? Is it going to be at a new city center? Maybe. Is it going to be a new transportation center? Maybe. Is it going to be new hotels with entertainment or something to draw people in? Maybe. But you got to sit down and think about, what does the city want? Who's got that? If you go to billionaires, I've talked to billionaires who are interested in doing things in Oakland, but they can't figure out what to do or who to do it with.
What do you mean who to do it with? Is that a leadership comment, or is that?
I think it's absolute leadership. Look, there's no one person that says I got it.
Yeah.
I'll round it. I'll get the county together. I'll get all of the regulatory agencies together. I get the legislative and congressional leadership on the same page. Tell all of them what we need for them to do in order to make these goals possible. Transportation, if it's BART, or highway systems, if it's that, whatever it might be. But you got to put all of those things together. And again, an economy and the infrastructure things are changing almost faster than you keep up with. That's nobody's fault. That's just reality. Nobody predicted the pandemic, but you saw all the malls closing. You go out to Hilltop, all they got is a Walmart out there.
No.
You say, well, it's better than we got. Yeah, that's all they got. A Walmart along in the street.
I thought live work was a solution where people can.
Well, that would be one solution, and we ought to do that. We got a little of that in Jack London Square.
Mm-hmm.
There's no retail in Jack London Square. I say Jack London Square. I mean the Jack London area, where you got all those high-rise apartments and others. There's no real shopping over there.
No, it's because a lot of it's done online, but also
right. And that's what I'm saying. So
but also for us, it's a crime issue, right?
Well, it's a crime issue, but even before there was a crime issue, or at least a breakout of crime, there was still no shopping. The Smart and Final downtown didn't close because of crime; it just closed.
Wow.
So anyway, and the Target, that was because of shoplifting. When the Super K closed out and the Walmart closed, it wasn't because of, well, it was crime, but it was internal theft. It wasn't even the people who came in and shopped it from outside.
Yeah, inside the house. Yeah.
Same thing happened at the Super Kmart. So, there's a lot of things that are going on. And you have to sit down and almost do a dissection or an autopsy to say, okay, what happened with In-N-Out? What could we have done to save it? Should we have a cop parked out there all the time? Is that just symbolic? And if we do it for them, is everybody else going to ask that? Maybe not. Do we have cameras out there? Do we have off and on ramps? So if something goes down, every road's going to get closed down automatically. And we're going to stop cars. It's going to be inconvenient for a minute. They know where to get away.
Now, I got some comments here. Jay having a comment. He says, can you turn up your microphone? Hey, I actually checked that out, Jay. And when I checked that out on the phone, I accidentally was turning it up to hear it, and Elihu's voice came in really loud and clear. So he doesn't have control of the mic here. It's more a function of his microphone and acoustics and other things, but I can hear him just fine. So I'm just saying, and so there you go. Max Maverick has been a lot of things. This is his latest incarnation. Welcome, Max. Max is stuck on Las Vegas. Why move to Las Vegas? Las Vegas will have a water shortage soon. You want to take that on?
Well, first of all, you go to Las Vegas and it's 98 degrees at 3:00 in the morning. You start wondering what is the mental capacity of people who move there. I like to go to Vegas for 2 or 3 days, and I'm going to see something specific, a show. I'm not going there to have lunch. I'm not going there because I want to soak in the 120-degree heat. I'm going because I want to go see something or do something, and it's going to be 2 or 3 days. I've never stayed in Vegas longer than I needed to be there. It's not because I don't like Vegas. It's just, I'm not a gambler, and the only other reason to go to Vegas to me is that it's not like it's a cultural center with great museums and art and things like that. It's like you go to Vegas because it's an activity center. So, and that's worked fine for them. They have become a multi-activity center. You got sports, you got all kind of different acts to go see at different shows. You got gambling. So
now you got NFL football and
right. And that's sports, but the point about
it be baseball, right?
The point about it is you can find reasons to go. The question is, at what point, i.e. baseball is a summer sport, and you got to have it inside for the most part. Maybe a roof stadium works. We'll see. But the bottom line is they have 81 home games a year. Is there enough traffic from out of town or enough support in town to justify, they're talking about maybe a 35,000 seat stadium.
Yeah.
So they're sure not building for great capacity. They think people are going to spend more money to go to a baseball game there, or they think that all the casinos are going to take out advertising. I have no idea what their income model is, but I can't see how it's based on.
I will tell you. I know what it is. I'll tell you. The projected revenue is $757 million for the first year, which is a record.
Right.
Will be a record for them, and Major League Baseball. But
what is it based on?
oh, sure, it's based on the calculation that was developed by both the Las Vegas Commission and Visitors Authority under Stephen Hill, combined with Jeremy Arguello and applied analytics. And what they did was they calculated the expected tax revenue, but you can reverse that formula and realize, which is what I did, and realize the actual revenue. So the revenue calculation was generated by me based on the expected tax revenue. I took the tax rates and divided and came up with the 757 million. I didn't include construction because of its nature. I wanted to actually get the after construction impact.
But if you're talking to the community, I'm talking about to the A's.
I'm talking about 757 million to the A's. Yeah.
The A's will make gross $757 million.
$757 million.
Then they should move. I have no issue with that.
Yeah.
But hey, there are a handful of cities in the country that can generate that kind of revenue. So that's a straight business decision. But Miami, they got few. They are having fewer people than the A's were having in an average year prior to the announcement of the move. So obviously, some teams are sticking it out in their markets and trying to make it work. All of them could be moving to a different location. Certainly, Nashville, I think, is a very lucrative potential location. And if I were the A's, I might even move there with Vegas, other than the economic model you just put out there, because there aren't many places with a population that size that can generate that level of revenue.
Now, you were talking about Vegas. I'll tell you, I love Las Vegas, and I go there every year for CES.
Right.
I've stayed as long as 12 days.
Okay.
And whether I was there for the NFL draft, unfortunately, was there a little bit longer than I wanted to, but because my mom got sick and almost lost her, but due to the good work of Valley Medical Center staff, she survived and she's doing well now. But I love Las Vegas, and what I love about it is that it is America's experimental prototype community of tomorrow. It's a place where if you want to build something, it's easier to build it. Like, let's take Jackie Robinson, the building developer who wanted to build the all-net arena. He didn't get the financing, but he had land control. He had thumbs up from the county commissioners and the city of Las Vegas. He had the good graces of the mayor and a number of people. He just didn't raise the money to get it done because he didn't want to partner with a casino, which I thought was a bad move. And he's African American. It's tremendous to see success down there with Jackie Robinson. It didn't happen. I can go on and on and on, but it's ever changing. Look at Sphere. Look at the new convention center and how they're changing, and they're going to change the legacy convention center too. They're always investing. They're always
and they have become a multi enterprise center, and I give them credit for it. Not what used to be just gambling. It was gambling and shows. Now it's gambling and shows and sports. So all these things I think are indicative of, hey, people got to come to us. What makes us unique enough people? And now the one thing they have yet to do, and it's got to be next on the list, how do we attract more families?
Yes.
You're not going to go to Vegas and take your kids because they're going to be in the hotel room unless you want to take them to a baseball game. They can't take them to half of those shows because they got naked women in them. You can't take them to to a lot of the dinner places because they're not too expensive, but they're not really menus that appeal to kids. So you got circus, but almost everything else is focused on adults. It's an adult Disneyland. Yeah. But then you got to leave there and go to Disneyland.
And they also have an affordability problem, a growing one, I should say.
Yeah.
Now, and we got that. And then Max says stay in Oakland. I think it's too late for that. But he says Las Vegas has no future. Trust me, water supply shortage is no joke. Why move somewhere where it's going to be a wasteland in the future? Thoughts, Elihu?
Well, there's no question we got a water problem. And I mean, what makes more sense to me, at least from the standpoint of Vegas, not necessarily Nevada, would be if you begin pumping in seawater. You got rising tides, so there's plenty of that, and having a desaltation place somewhere either on the coast where you're pumping pure water, coming from the ocean, that's being distilled into fresh water. Maybe one way to solve it, but you got to solve the water problem.
Definitely. And Max says, or stay somewhere. So that's it. So we've had Elihu for an hour. A very fun, lively conversation. And hey, wait a minute. Tom Brady had his roast. So when is there going to be the Elihu Harris roast? You deserve a roast, boss. You know?
They've been roasting me my whole life.
I knew that was coming.
They haven't stuck a fork in me yet. See, I'm done, but I'm still getting regularly roasted. So don't worry. They didn't stop and just have one. They've been doing it all every day.
Do you think?
Amen. Thank you. You know what? I think it's good to have conversation about tough subject, and not that anybody has the answer, because there's not one answer, but having these conversations and talking about problems is the only way you're ever going to solve them.
Yep.
You know, if you sit there and say, "Hey, I got all the answers," or "I know what all the problems are," that's not necessarily constructive. But to say, "Hey, let's identify the problems and let's say, okay, is it if we had Larry Ellison and a few other billionaires coming and saying, hey, we're getting ready to, turn Oakland out. We're going to invest in, you see all these high rises. We're going to now build office space here. Well, we didn't create space for office building. So therefore you got places for people to live, but nowhere for them to work. So is there going to continue to be a suburbanization of businesses? Well, look, cities exist for a reason. The transportation and communication hubs. If you live out in Pleasanton or Tracy, in all likelihood, you're going to have to drive to South Square Airport if you want to go overseas or you want to go to the East Coast. So you got a 2-hour drive and maybe a 6-hour flight. So I just think that we ought to remember why cities exist, why we invest in cities, the cultural centers, the communication centers, the transportation centers. I doubt that's going to change anytime soon. There are many workers who want to work from home. I'm not sure that's ultimately the best way for business to be run, when the workers are not coming together, sharing their creativity, their energy, their sense of all on the same team. And you see each other at a company picnic once a year at best. I don't think you build collegiality or a sense that we're all in this together with a common purpose and a common interest. So I think it's going to be some changes in the way business is done. I think it's going to be a reinvestment in cities. I think you're going to see Detroit being one example of that. When I went to Detroit 6, 7, 8 years ago, I was amazed because they had only one store in the neighborhood near downtown Detroit where I was. It was a Whole Foods. I said, Whole Foods in downtown Detroit? These people don't even know what Whole Foods are, Whole Foods, that's a can of beer and some chips. But I think, though, that you're seeing people reinvesting in those cities. And when you saw all the people who were there for the NFL draft.
775,000.
Right. You wanted to understand, they weren't afraid of crime. They weren't afraid of Detroit. They came, they stayed, they ate, they had a good time, and they went home. That's a hell of an advertisement for Detroit.
Yep. I told one of the officers the Friday night of the draft, I said, actually before that, I said, you know what? In Nashville, Peter O'Reilly, who's the Mr. NFL draft and Mr. Super Bowl for the league, took over 32 blocks in Nashville for the entire time from the Tuesday before the draft all the way through Saturday. There was one arrest.
Yeah, exactly.
And I told that to the people and the cops in Detroit Friday night. I said, I'll bet you there's one arrest the entire time. I haven't heard a blip about any problem from any 775,000 people that came out there. That's amazing.
Look. And I have to go back and really try to dissect why. But there was not a perception of crime downtown Oakland when I was mayor. There were problems in the neighborhoods, and I understand that. And I'm not saying trying to justify the crime in the neighborhood by saying there was not much crime downtown. But you could walk around the lake. You could, walk down Broadway, the Clorox building, or wherever you were going to lunch, Chinatown, and not so much worry about being robbed at gunpoint or having your car broken into during the daytime. I think that you got to focus on at least one major problem. And until you solve one major problem, you're in a crisis. And that's what Oakland is in.
You know, I want to add something too as we close, because you said you don't know what the answer is. And I believe I know why, or why it happens with respect to the NFL draft, because it's the NFL. And it's not the NFL does anything in of itself. They do have security. They have security and all that. Yeah. But people love talking about their sports teams. They love talking about everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how crazy it was. I'm going to pull this video out, not now, but another time, and I'm going to break it down tonight. I'm walking out onto what turned out to be the front of the NFL draft theater.
Right.
People on my right, by the thousands, just yelling and everything. One guy, Raider fan, dressed like he was Freddy Krueger from Nightmare on Elm Street. So me being a Raider fan, still I said, Raiders. He goes, Zenny. And I thought, whoa. And what caught me was that everybody has some subject or focus in that crowd, right?
Right.
And it was even him. And it was nuts. I never seen, well, excuse me. The last time I saw something like that was in Nashville, and in Las Vegas, and in Chicago, right? Which was there, had it twice, and in Philadelphia, which did a fantastic job as well. So I said to Pat Kerwin, I said, you know, Pat, and this is actually on my video. I said, I want to go back to New York. He says, that ain't happening. Everybody wants the NFL draft. It's in too many cities. And you know what, Elihu, I'm telling you, we're seeing why sports franchises are, NFL in particular, are going up, 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 up. People want it. And as long as that demand is there, they're going to keep increasing.
Well, look, it was in Oakland. Oakland was a sports town.
Yeah.
You knew it. And little kids were in the little league. You know, high school sports, college sports were all interesting and had good fan bases. And certainly the pro teams. You know, at one point, Oakland had 4 sports teams: ice hockey, baseball, football, and basketball. And it was not a problem. Plenty of people were supporting it. It wasn't about safety. It wasn't about location. It was, hey, I'm going to the Oakland Coliseum. I'm going to the Oakland Arena, whatever the name was at the time. And you know what? You never heard about crime.
Nope.
You never heard about any fear of going to that facility for a sports team or for any other entertainment.
Not at all.
That was well done.
Yeah.
You have to deal with those issues straight up. And if you can't deal with reasonably with internal resources, you got to go to Sacramento, Washington, and say, hey, these people coming here, they don't all live in Oakland. This is not a local problem. This is a regional problem. We need the city, we need the county, we need the state, we need the federal government to all be part of the solution. That's why I had an interagency task force.
Yeah. And
they all got to kick in, and they all got to do what they got to do to get these predators off our streets. All right, man. Hey, thank you.
Hey, man, well said. And, hey, stick around in the background. Hey, everybody, I want to thank Mayor Harris for coming by, and we'll be back with more. Subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. Please share our wonderful conversations. Any part you want broken out, let me know. Hey, boss, stick around in the background. You have to move a muscle. Thanks, everybody. And thank you all for commenting. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Max. That ends this broadcast.